Top of the evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently May 24th, 2010, and this is day 9, daily number 123. We're doing a little awesome Idra vs. Nony action today. And I'd like to thank once again HDH and Husky and the IRIP people for providing me with these replays so that we may have more awesomeness to analyze. So, had a pretty awesome day myself. I think some of you may have heard that recently I found out that I wasn't quite in the system for the payroll for the summer, so I wasn't earning any money. So I had to go speak to Cookie in the financial aid office. That's what she goes by. She call me Cookie, and I had the whole mental block trying to do that. And then I finally got that sorted out, and I got my first paycheck. But of course, because all my back hours haven't been logged, I have 1 hour logged on there. So I got my check today for $9. I was feeling pretty good about myself, but I went to the bank to cash it, and for some reason, like some guy had apparently robbed the bank or something. I don't know. It was closed off because there's police officers there, taking notes and stuff, and the manager looking very concerned with his fists on his hip. And I wanted to cash my $9. It's like my paycheck. So try to find an entrance in, trying to get around all the yellow tape. And this guy's like, "Excuse me, sir, this is a restricted area. You can't come in here." And I'm like, I need to cash my check. Do you know it'll be open? He's like, "Absolutely not. It will not be open anytime soon." And I'm like, well, I mean, it looks safe. I just want to cash my check because it's a long walk from my house to campus. Because I don't want to have to leave my house again to go there. Right? So I would need to do it now. So I just need to deposit my check, right? Okay, let me just do it. And he's like, "Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." I'm like, "No, I'll just give this to the manager. Just have him cash a check." And he goes, "Well, I mean, is it a big check? How much money is it for?" And I'm like, "It's not important. It's not the point. It's a bank. I want to put my money in." He's like, "What, are you trying to make rent or something? Why is it? How much money is it?" I'm like, "Well, it's my paycheck. It's for my work. Of course it's a decent sum of money." And of course they kicked me out. He threatened to handcuff me. So then I have to walk away, and this guy behind me was like, "Oh God, can't believe it." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, worst luck ever." And I turn around, it's actually the homeless guy who's not actually homeless, but he pretends to be. And he just goes, "Oh man, so you got any money?" And I looked at my $9 check, and I went, "Well, I would if they'd let me deposit my money." And he's like, "Fucking pigs." I'm like, "Yeah, man." We had this bonding moment. And then he walked to his car and drove off because this guy just drives to the UV north of USC all the time. So he just drove away angry, and I was mad too. But that's okay. I'll see him tomorrow. I'll give him a buck. That we can get better rims for his Prius. I guess he wants to save the environment or something like that. I don't know. Either way, we are watching some awesome gameage action today. We have Idra spawning here at the bottom, and we have Nony spawning here at the top on Metalopolis. Now, before we actually go into the game, let's note some things about Idra. Idra has very pristine play. It is just linked so smoothly. It looks so good when he plays. There are no bumps or really anything because he's played so many games. He has a very deep level of refinement in his play. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these two games, focusing almost exclusively on Idra's play. And we're going to see two completely different situations that he encounters and how his build sort of bends to account for both of those. But they have the same basic core idea. Very, very simple structure to them. But again, we're going to note a lot of the refinement. And I love using Idra as an example of refinedness because, I mean, he just does not miss a beat. And I mean, for a lot of the newer players who are just getting betas, or for people who are a little rusty on their mechanics, on the speed that they click in their macro and micro, Idra is a great example of how, if you have everything lining up very smoothly, cleanly, and neatly, you will just play so well and you will win so many games. Because to be frank, probably heard me say this a lot, but most of the gold, silver level players are doing the right strategy, but just not executing it very well at all. So we do see a 9 Overlord by Idra. There's always been a little bit of contention around what's better, the 9 Overlord, then Drone, the 10 Overlord, the 10 Overlord plus Extractor Trick, all these sorts of things. And if you don't know, test it. Excuse me, I got a little bit of chicken pot pie stuck in my mouth. One of my favorite activities. If you ever don't know, have no shame in just testing it. There was actually a map that was recently made. You can find it on teamliquid.net. QXC made a post about it. It was just a map testing map where you literally load up, do your build order, type reset, and it just pings everything back to normal. So that way you can really truly see what is better for you and better for your build. So we do have this 14 pool going down by Idra. Already this excites me because, you know, let's say I'm a low-level player. I'm Copper, you know, way back when Copper actually existed before it got phased out in patch 13 because I guess they decided Bronze and Copper were just too much the same mineral content. I don't know. Either way, for any of you low-level players, this is already exciting because if you get a pool early, you're obviously going to be safe against a lot of variety. I mean, a lot of times someone would say, oh yeah, I just go ahead and 14 hatch every game at my expansion or something like that, but that's a little bit trickier to hold. This is not tricky at all, so this is very nice. You know, you'll often hear me say, don't do this build unless you have a lot of skill or unless you have a lot of hand speed, but Idra's build, so far, it just looks completely straightforward, and we see this very early Overlord. In fact, before he even gets his queen started, and there is his queen, should be his queen. Yep, there's the queen getting started right now. And we do want to note some other little things. Idra is poking his little drone around here. He sent that one out relatively early to be able to scout his opponent. And rather than just say, he sent it out at this time, and be done with it, try to note that this is being sent out at a time that's useful to Idra. He gets to see whether 2 gas are being taken. He gets to see whether there's a 10 gate coming. Which are pretty significant. So either way, let's focus on some numbers here. We see 1 set of Zerglings. Let's open the production queue and note that, yeah, only 1 set of Zerglings were made. What does he do with them? Look at these Zerglings. Oh my god, look at the path that those Zerglings are taking right now. Way too often you see players who get those Lings out and they will just, you know, whatever, I have Lings, and they'll stick them here or there or something like that. But already Idra being very active with them. Built a Geyser on 20. That was when he built the timing on his Geyser. And then just churns out a second queen right away. Does 1 spit and then sends the queen directly to the expansion. And what we're going to see is this expo finishes just in time for the queen to be able to do a second Larva Vomit. More little fundamentals going on here. Idra still scouting with his initial drone, checking to see what everything is doing. Oh, he sees 2 gateways. Great. He has a perfect sense of what's going on. And puts 3 guys in the gas. He's rallying to his expo, so or with the 4 larvae that just popped, he's rallying there. And here is a nice little timing to note really fast here. If you end up building your queen right when your first queen finishes, like if you build your second queen right when your first queen finishes, notice that this queen is going to finish right as your original queen gets another 25 larvae. Because that's one of the most difficult aspects of Zerg macro, is having your queens line up to where you can just go 5-5 spit, 6-6 spit, go back to doing whatever it is you need to do, you know, macro with your keyboard, micro around, scout, 5-5, more larvae, 6-6, more larvae. You really want to have them lined up. It becomes super obnoxious to try to have to deal with them being off-center. So this is like a built-in timing. Rather than have to worry about aligning those with any other funky tricks, you just say when 1 queen's finished, start building the next one, and everything will be lined up for you. How many Zerglings does Idra have? Still just these 2. Would like those to be a little bit more active, but, you know, this drone has a clear sense of everything that's going on. Builds 1 spine crawler, and what we're going to see coming up soon is pretty typical, which is to get the Zergling speed right away, with the first 100 gas to get the Zergling speed. And look at the Overlord popping out right in time. And the point of this is not so much to highlight the exact food at which everything was built, but instead to just note how nicely and neatly this thing lines up, how just clean Idra's play is. So let's just go ahead and speed it up to normal speed. The Ling speed is coming out. The drone, is it dead in the main? Yes, it does look as such. We see that one of these sentries has a kill, this guy right here. That is the culprit. Zergling's poking up the front. Why? It wants to know if warp gates have finished yet. There's always a big concern with your initial Lings. Should I move up the ramp or not? Because he can obviously force field, lock me in, and then I cry. If you're a very emotional player like me, I weep bitterly every time a single Ling dies. But with just 2, it's not a big deal, because the information you gain by knowing a warp gate's coming is just so useful. And also, let's just note some more numbers. At around 40 food, it says 39 right now, but let's just make it more general. At around 40 food, If you send Zerglings up the ramp, that's right when warp gates should be started. Very useful number just to have in our head. 40 food is Zerg is when warp gates would be finishing up with this build order. Such an incredibly useful thing to note. And also for any of you who, like I am, you know, study times on replay, so I'm just going to move over here. I guess it doesn't have the time listed there. All right, a little spoiler. Okay, cool. I am going to note that at exactly 6 minutes, that's when the warp gates end up getting started. Very, very important number just to have around 6 minutes. The reason I say 6 minutes is because it'll let me test my other builds. For this build, I want to remember around 40 food. And notice that right around 40 food, what is Idra doing? He's making a ton of Zerglings. And with his next 100 gas, he's just getting his layer up. Hasn't taken any other gas geysers. Is just being very proactive about keeping these queens busy. Doing a lot of spitting. Has not